Welcome to Career Uprising. I'm your host, Lorraine Rise, a career and executive coach dedicated to helping clients who are 40 plus to break free from feeling stuck and transform into the unstoppable force you're destined to become. Let's start the uprising. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 198, The Truth About Job Hopping, a Recruiter's Perspective. I hope you all are doing well and happy holidays. I think this will be coming out December-ish, so almost done with the year here. It's crazy, but I hope that you and your family have a wonderful holiday. It's been kind of a bruiser of a year and on a lot of fronts in 2025. So here's to hoping that 2026 will be a better year for everyone. We shall see, right? This is Career Uprising. I'm Lorraine Rise. Please follow the show on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And we're tackling a topic today that gets people pretty fired up. Job hopping. This is on my mind too a lot because I have gone back into the workforce, as a lot of you know, and I'm actively recruiting now again, and I'm loving it. And so this topic comes up a lot. I see a lot of resumes out there with short job tenures, a lot. So I want to share my perspective and what this, I think, really means for you as a job seeker. So if you've ever worried that changing jobs too often might hurt your career, or maybe wondered, have I stayed in a job too long just because it would look bad to leave? This episode is for you. As both a career coach and a recruiter, I have seen how employers interpret these short job tenures. And let me tell you, it's not always black and white, okay? It's not a open and shut, this, kind of thing where it's this many years as a job hopper and this is not. And it's more nuanced than that, for sure. So what we're going to dig into today is what job hopping really means. We're going to define it, or at least my definition of it. Then what recruiters and hiring managers actually think when they see it, and how to position yourself. If your resume shows a lot of quick movement, what you can do about it. So let's get real about job hopping, because I want to tell you it's not necessarily the career death sentence that you think it is. So let's start with a definition or something close to that, because job hopping can mean different things to different people. I don't know if there isn't, I'm sure, any certain definition. It's kind of in the eye of the beholder. So let me give you my personal definition. I mean, what I think when I look at resumes. Personally, I think there's two things that we're looking at. It's not just the length of the tenure, but how often you have changed jobs with those tenures. So how many short tenures do you have? And in fact, I would say that's probably the biggest thing, because if you have one short tenure that was 8 months long on there, okay, I can look past that. Most people would. If you have 4, we have a problem. So it's the consistent pattern, really, is what employers are looking for, not that 1 or even 2 times when you left quickly. So my definition would be when someone leaves a job in less than 2 years. Yeah, I'm going to say 2 years, because a year and a half isn't really that long still at a job, but over multiple roles. So if I start to see it, I would say the third time I see a really short tenure, that's when I start to go, okay, I might have to probe a little bit and ask them what's going on here. No judgment, just curiosity, because sometimes there's a perfectly valid reason for it. A lot of times there is. So I think what makes this a sticky subject is the fact that there is no set standard at all. So it's hard to know sometimes if you're even going to be perceived as a job hopper or not. So let's get even more specific. So if somebody leaves a role 6 months to a year, and then it happens repeatedly, that's going to be a big red flag. It can. Now, I'm not saying it means this to you, but what it's going to be probably interpreted as is instability, lack of direction, performance issues, not knowing what you want in your career, getting bored easily, or very commonly chasing money. right? Just taking the next highest paying offer that comes along. All of these are the things that hiring managers are going to assume this means. Now, some of these are different, right? Leaving because you don't know what you want or is different, then you got paid more money, so you just went that direction. Or because you had performance issues. These are all really different issues that all kind of roll up into the same result, short job tenures. Now, if you've been there at least 2 to 3 years, I don't call that job hopping. In today's market, that's the normal career rhythm. The workforce has changed, as you all know, and 10-year stints at one company are not the benchmark for loyalty or success anymore on either side. Nobody really expects that, okay? And in fact, too long of a tenure sometimes could even work against you in tech, especially because you could look complacent or outdated with technology. So, talk about confusing, right? Sometimes we leave too soon, sometimes we stay too long. You kind of damned either way a little bit. Younger generations, in particular, millennials, Gen Z, tend to value growth, flexibility, and alignment with values more than tenure. Tenure was everything. 30, 40, 50 years ago, that was it. You were expected to stay and have loyalty and just be grateful to have a job. The world is so different now with remote work and people moving around. It's just in social media and everything has just changed the whole game. So before you start panicking, though, about what your resume looks like, remember this: context matters. All right. Context is important. And sometimes it is actually to your benefit to maybe put on the resume why you left the job. If it's something that's easily explainable, like it was a short-term contract that came to an end, I would probably put that on there in parentheses somewhere in that job listing. That way, I don't have to fill in the blanks and assume that you just quit. Okay, maybe the contract ended, or even if it was a layoff, like not a firing. If you were just laid off from a reduction in force or during maybe an acquisition, put that on there. That's not your fault at all. It shouldn't reflect negatively on you. It's different than being fired. That would help maybe to get more interviews. I've done that myself in the past because then people will understand that short job tenure. So let's talk about what recruiters like me actually think when they see short stints on a resume. Here's the truth. Recruiters care less than hiring managers do. And I'm not just trying to pass the buck here, but it's true. Recruiters are trained to look for potential patterns. We're scanning your career progression, your basic skills, your job title. But just by nature of our jobs, we typically want to push you through. The hiring manager is the one who is ultimately going to be working with you and making the decision. And many times it's the hiring manager that pulls the plug and says no. But the recruiter is the messenger. So we get all the hate and we get all the blame when the decision did not come from us. We are not the decision makers. We typically always want to push at least reasonably qualified people through, even if their resume is imperfect. I do it all the time. And it's the hiring manager that makes the decision. This is just how it works. But because you often don't see or ever interact with the hiring manager, they will blame the recruiter. So I get it. No hard feelings. I won't hold it against you. But that is the truth of what is happening. And I know other recruiters would agree with me. All right. So now I will say, if you get ghosted and the recruiter doesn't get back to you, that's on them. That's the recruiter's fault. But what's not their fault is the fact that it didn't move forward at all. That's usually coming from the hiring manager. And I have heard hiring managers be very critical of job hoppers, multiple ones. This is a big issue for them. It really is. If they see that you've moved around a lot, your roles, you've not been promoted or your roles have not increased in scope or anything like that, that's a concern. But if you have been, if the reason that you moved is because you got a promotion and they can see evidence of growth, that's a better thing. What recruiters don't love, though, is the inconsistency with no story behind it. If you've had 3 jobs in a row, lasting less than a year and there's no explanation on there, like a contract end or a layoff, relocation, then yeah, they're either going to have to ask questions or they might not choose you for a call and you might not even get a chance to explain yourself. Recruiters usually are advocates. We want to move you forward. We're paid to find talent. That's our job. So it's important to know that the hiring manager who's going to be your boss is probably going to be the more skeptical one. But there is hope for you, all right? You can do this. You have to understand that there are things that you can do to fix this, okay? So the job market has evolved a lot faster than workplace attitudes have. Unfortunately, attitudes are starting to catch up, but you can overcome this, all right? So layoffs happen, we know this. Restructuring of companies happen, we know this. So people are moving around, not because they're unreliable necessarily, but it actually can make you quite adaptable. And then add to that the rise of remote work and technology. Opportunities are everywhere. And if a company isn't investing in your growth, someone else will. So sometimes that's why we leave, because we really do just find a better company or a better opportunity. So from a recruiter's perspective, switching roles every few years can actually make you marketable in some ways. Keeps you on your toes, keeps your skills sharp, keeps your networking sharp, and it shows that you are marketable because employers want you. It's not all bad. It can show agility. It can show cross-functional experience, exposure to different systems and environment. And what matters is how you frame it. You need to tell a cohesive story. You might have to put some of it on the resume because you may not get a chance to explain it verbally. So thinking about telling a cohesive story, you want to try to connect each move logically to the next to show intentionality instead of instability. So for example, instead of saying, I just didn't like that job, you might say, I realized I wanted to focus more on the healthcare industry, and that move helped me to do that, right? That's a big difference between those there. So let's get practical a little bit more. If your resume shows movement, here are some things that you can do to address it, both on the resume and in the interview. Number one, control the narrative. If you don't explain your career story, the employer is going to fill in the blanks themselves, and it's probably not going to be in your favor. Use your summary section or cover letter, perhaps, but I would say the summary section because no one reads cover letters, to connect the dots. It could sound like, over the past several years, I've taken on opportunities across different organizations that allowed me to deepen my expertise in XYZ and broaden my experience in XYZ. You fill in the blanks. Number two, acknowledge it, but don't defend it. You have nothing to defend. If a hiring manager asks you about your job changes, just keep it calm and factual. Say, yes, I've had a few shorter roles. In some cases, it was due to organizational changes, but each move helped me develop new skills, and I'm eager to apply these skills in a longer-term role. No excuses, no fluff, no over-explaining, but own it and feel confident with it. How you present it will go a long way into influencing how they receive it. Number three, emphasize stability elsewhere. If your job history shows movement, highlight other long-term commitments, volunteer work, board roles, certifications, side projects, whatever you need to do. Number four, focus on contribution, not duration. Instead of worrying how long you were somewhere, talk about what you did while you were there. Hiring managers care more about impact than they do about tenure. And number five, know when it's a real problem. If you truly have a pattern of leaving every 6 months, you need to do some reflection. Why is this happening? Why are you leaving so quickly? Are you running away from a bad fit? Do you not know what you want? There doesn't have to be judgment, but there does need to be awareness. Growth comes from recognizing your own patterns. So you might have to have a real heart-to-heart with yourself if this is something that really is a pattern for you. So here's the bottom line. Job hopping isn't fatal, but it is contextual. If you have a clear story and a track record of delivering results and self-awareness about your choices, you will be fine. What employers care about today is, are you reliable? Are you adding value and are you growing? These three things will outweigh tenure every time. So don't panic if your resume has had a few quick turns. Focus on what you've learned, what you've achieved, and focus on developing a cohesive story that you can share verbally or sprinkle in on your resume as needed. If you've changed jobs more than you planned, it doesn't mean your career is broken, but it does mean that there might be some self-reflection and some adapting that needs to happen. As a recruiter, I can tell you what employers care about most is the story behind the moves and whether you show up as someone who has learned from them. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this episode has been helpful. Share it with somebody else who might need to hear this message and learn more about what we do at careeruprising.com. And we'll be back shortly with another episode. Hey, it's Lorraine, and I want to say thanks for listening. If you found value in today's show, I would be honored to have your review on Apple Podcasts. It's the single best way to help this show be found by other listeners, and you'll earn some good karma. Thanks again for tuning in, and I can't wait to connect with you next time on Career Uprising.